Mhm. Are we gonna keep the gallery view? I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's fun.
Admit.
Oh. Hello, welcome. Where are their seats at? Do they have to choose to join the seat? I don't know.
Hello, Jamie. Hello, Grace. Hello, Heather.
Jacomere, hello.
Hi. Asker.
Hello, everyone. I'm just eating a quick snack. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry.
Too.
Hey, we are too. We are too.
Get everything that you need.
You hear munching, it's us over here.
Hello, Riverlands.
How come Alba's just in his seat? Oh, Stacy is too.
And Garrett.
Place participants
There we
interview all
go.
met. There we go.
Start it.
This is the one that's shared.
We got assigned
So-
seating here, guys.
Yeah, because if you're sharing on the same one, you have to do all that. You can't see when to admit people. Dang it.
That's awesome.
Oh, we're down there in the little blue seats
What are the people?
in the corner.
We're all sharing one seat.
You don't need to admit my autopilot because it will, I mean, it will take notes for us. That's all it does, but you can remove it.
Well, that's pretty fun. Having her on a assigned
You like
spot.
that?
Yeah, it's pretty
Everybody say
cool.
hello to your neighbor.
Yeah.
You can put it in the middle.
Look, you're next to Alba and she's like far away from us.
Can I drag and drop you guys? Can I move you where I want you?
I don't know. They can manually pick their seats too, I saw.
Mm.
If you change it.
Nobody
that
wants
way.
to sit in the front row.
Look at Garrett.
I know, he's like, oh, Alba's not next to him anymore. She was though. I was like, they could look at each other, but without knowing.
Then you can't see us. Yeah. I'm gonna try to move us. Oh, you can make it bigger though.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to get too many seats that
Oh, Oscar move.
He wanted to sit on us.
We're found your new passion, I believe.
Well, I think it's pretty funny because we're using the owl, and so
Welcome to the
change
snap
from-
into action.
it'll,
It's lost.
There's a bunch of us in one.
I think it's been a long day. We're pretty easily entertained right now.
Well, the picture I took of all of us, my head was annoyed, so it says app into action.
Hello, everyone. You feel free to get up and get yourself a snack before we start. We're gonna wait for a couple more minutes just to get people, see if we have some late arrivals. Something, you know.
Right. Ooh.
That helps too with minutes.
Good idea.
Yeah.
We can start that.
Okay, yeah. So welcome to the Hometown Food Securities Project's first Snap Action or Snap into Action event. I'm Varen Van Vogt. I'm part of the Hometown Food Security core team, and I'm here with Jessica Anderson, Michaela Oxley, Jennie Crews, and Garrett Law, who are also part of the coalition. And we'll start with some introductions. And so if you all want to take turns, and we'll go around the room and you can talk about, tell us your name and what organization that you're from.
We'll start within the room. I'm Jessica Anderson. My primary role in the Hometown Food Security Project SNAP team is note taker and co-facilitator to my partner, Michaela Oxley. I am the parent engagement coordinator and mentorship coordinator for Austin Aspires.
Michaela Oxley, and I am the SNAP advocacy team leader. So I work with all of those who are part of the Hometown Food Security Project Coalition. And then I just kind of oversee the group and make sure that we stay on track and get our goals met and moving things forward and creating things like this for other people.
And I am Jennie Crews. I am with Mower County Health and Human Services. So as the financial assistant supervisor with Mower County, I actually oversee the SNAP program, and also a member of the Hometown Food Security Project core team. Thanks for coming, guys.
And I'm Garrett Law, and I'm with Attention Span Media, and our company does a lot of work with Hormel, and we're really excited to be able to help the Hometown Food Security Project. And our main area of focus is on communications, but also on data and research. And I'm joined by my colleague, Alba.
Thank you, Garrett. My name is Alba Muñoz, and I work with Garrett in the Attention Span team based in our Boston office. Very excited to connect with you all remotely today.
Okay, and then we'll move on virtually. We'll start with you, Oscar.
Sure, and thanks everyone, first of all, for having us participate today. So my name is Oscar Gonzalez. I'm the Dean of Student Affairs at Riverland Community College. And as we continue to just address and look further into our community's needs, we know that there's a lot of work that needs to take place. So so joining us are several colleagues and supervisors that oversee the various student affairs divisions. And we look forward to just again continue to collaborate and partner up with our local organizations to be change agents. So thanks again.
Now we'll move to the back row.
Oscar's the one in the front.
Can you help
Jeremy?
There's one on the other
Who's
side.
the
The one with
dog?
the dogs.
I
Who's
was
got
gonna
the
say,
cute
Andy.
puppies?
Yeah, when I heard dogs, I knew it was me. So my name is Annie Lynn. I am an assistant professor at Hormel Institute. In terms of my role, what I've been doing is creating materials on how to use shelf-stable foods within a usual diet. So we've created resources on that. And with the upcoming event, we help develop some of the children activities as well as the adult activities as well. And my expertise is in mobile health apps too. So we've applied to at least one grant with the view of applying to more in order to get funding and how we can help use technology to help the outreach of SNAP.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jamie Riskadal. I work for Rachel's Hope here in Austin. We're a relatively new partner with the Hometown Food Security and also Second Harvest.
Heather?
Hi, I'm Heather Harms. I am the director of a student support services program called TRIO at Riverland Community College. And our students are ones who utilize SNAP. And so just happy to be here to learn more about it to help them when they need to look for programming and supports for them.
Keeps cutting off.
And Heidi?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute there. I am Heidi Goebel. I'm the admin to the Dean of Student Affairs at Riverland Community College. And kind of like Heather had said, we like to help students when they come in and they ask for help or they need to apply for EBT, right? Is that right? So I am there to help them fill out the application and get them the help that they need.
Stacy?
I'm Stacy Wisemore. I'm with the Salvation Army here in Austin. I'm mainly sitting in because we have a lot of participants that ask us about the SNAP program. So I'm really looking to learn more about it so I can be more beneficial information-wise to them.
Thank you. Joachim.
Hi, I'm Joachim DeBach, also with Austin Aspires. My role is Director of Student Programs, so working a lot with the students from middle school up into high school and supporting families in whatever needs that they have. So kind of similar to what Heidi, Stacy, and Heather had said, just supporting families and wanting to know more about SNAP.
Thank you, Joachim. Grace?
Hello, my name is Grace. I am a home-based educator working with Samcat Early Head Start in Austin. I am working with immigrant refugee families. So I am helping the family with SNAP, completing SNAP forms and stuff like that. So I think I hope this training is gonna help me a lot, like to help my families that I work with.
Thank you. Susan?
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Draves from the University of Minnesota Extension, Department of Family Health and Wellbeing. I'm the SNAP Ed Regional Coordinator for Southeast part of the state. It's good to be here.
You're welcome. Thank you all for coming here because, our goal with Hometown Food Security is to solve hunger in Mower County. We want to ensure that none of our community members go to bed hungry and not having access to foods that not just feed their body, but also their souls. And one of the ways that we can do that is just by partnering together and helping expand education and outreach and let people know what is available to them. So I think I will hand it over to Karen Alba to talk a little more about the background of the project.
Great, thanks, Ren. So we wanted to start today by sharing a little bit more about the context of food insecurity here in Mower County. Because as many of you may already know, it's hunger, food insecurity is a very complex issue. There are many contributing factors and they change for individuals and families over time. And some of the related aspects are poverty rates. The 12% about of the people in Mower County are considered below the federal poverty level. And for children, it's 20%. Of course, families have more financial burden, especially with kids, but there are a lot of people out there that can use our help and continued support. And Mower County also is ranked 73rd out of 87 in a variety of health outcomes. There's definitely work to do, but they're in many ways interrelated with issues of hunger. And one thing we want everybody to know and keep in mind too, often hunger and more particularly food insecurity comes from having to make trade-offs between paying certain bills and what food you can maybe afford. The one metric that's talked about a lot, and we talk about it in the community assessment report, but cost burden households, those that are spending more than 30% of the household income on just the cost of either rent or home ownership. And in Mower County, that's 50% of people who rent are spending more than 30% just on housing. And even among homeowners, whether they own the home, usually with a mortgage, still 1 in 7. That's a big expense for that. And you can imagine as other costs come in, people need a place to live. So that usually comes first. And some other metrics that are good to keep in mind, the senior population in Mower County, almost 25% are over 60, which is a lot. And of those seniors or people over 60, maybe not, they're not all consider themselves seniors, but 39% live alone. And loneliness and depression are a very high correlation with food insecurity. And of those 60 plus 2, 1 out of 3 are living with a disability, which further challenges the ability to get food and regularly. Another interesting fact about Mower County, 11% was born in another country. And those different populations that come here face their own unique challenges. And one of which 1 out of 7 immigrant adults who are eligible for food subsidies and support programs like SNAP are not applying due to fear of the paperwork and involved, which Jenny will touch on later. Another interesting thing too, keep in mind, being able to get food is not only just maybe a financial thing at times, but it can also be a transportation issue. 28% of households here have 1 vehicle and 8% have 0. So, and there is not a subway here yet, so it's not always easy to get everywhere. So the issue it brings us all here today is food insecurity, and in our hometown, in Mower County, this is the latest good data as 2021, but 7.1%, which is 2,830 individuals, are still food insecure, despite all the great work being done by so many people and organizations, and including SNAP. Many of the people on SNAP were not food insecure anymore because it's such a great program at fighting hunger, which you'll hear a lot more about, but it's still almost 11%. It's 1,100 children that, have to worry about this. And one of the really interesting facts about food insecurity is that for decades, it was dropping, but in the last few decades, it's hovered around 10%, and that's nationally an issue. And COVID brought a lot of this to the forefront. There were a lot of great programs that were added to really help prevent hunger during that. And as those ended, it showed that there's still a lot of hunger out there. And between 2021 and 22, you can see there have been huge new and increasing demands on Mower County food shelves, as an example. Visits for children have doubled, and adults are up 78%. And that's a lot of pressure on the food pantry system, which maybe should be seen as a backup to things that are more consistent, like number 1, SNAP. And the universal school lunch, I think, will help a lot, but it's not the answer to everything. Which brings us to the Hometown Food Security Project. So the idea that the food security rate is going to be 10% forever, that's maybe we could do more. And that led 2 years ago to Hormel and convened a group of stakeholders along with the United Way of Mower County. I think it was 45 or so groups represented, came and talked about this with each other and said, look, if we all work together, if we try new things, can we go further than anyone else is going? Can we cut the food insecurity rate below what anyone else has been able to do? And we can, let's try it. Why not? And part of the understanding is no one individual company organization can do it alone. And research has shown that you could put all of the unlimited funds or unlimited products in a room, and it still will not end food insecurity. It requires a multi-pronged approach. And that was the birth of the Hometown Food Security Project. And part of the idea too is, there are great programs out there which we need to take advantage of, but we can't solve all of the problems for everybody immediately. But what we can do, we can start here in our hometown, and we know we can do more, and there's no better time to start today. And I think everyone hopes that the work being done here will be shared, and it is being shared with other communities, so people can learn from what we're doing. And a lot of what we're doing is pioneering, so we're very excited to be part of it. So a little bit about how the coalition launched. I'll turn to Alba.
Thank you, Garrett. So building off of that, kind of the need and like no better time than now, no better place than here in our hometown. One of the first efforts that the coalition set out to do at this inception was to recruit partners and to really look into within Mower County, what are some of and local organizations that are already doing the work, that are connecting with the people that are in need. So a small core team started from the beginning and includes many of you who are in the virtual room today, Austin Public Schools and Mayo Clinic and Riverland and PRC and the Welcome Center. Many of you are here. And really the opportunity and the need was to build on the existing efforts and to continue with that collaboration. So one of the tasks was to start establishing a structure for this coalition, for how we would work together, guided by the vision that we've discussed. No one will go hungry in Mower County. This kind of ambitious, bold vision. How can we translate that and execute that within the community, and also building on the existing programs that we have already. So the structure is divided with an operations team, a core team that we mentioned, and then there's also action teams that we'll talk in a little bit. And then it receives technical and support from various partners, including ourselves, as well as Hormel and others that provide support and resources. And then it's guided by a set of values and really very pride itself on a lot of collaboration and building on each other's efforts. And then on the early times of the coalition and its forming, a lot of the work, and Garrett referred this, is the asset mapping and bringing many of the stakeholders together in the same room, workshops, kind of roll up your sleeves and think, what do we have, what's currently working, and really start to identify what are the assets that we have in Mower County, and then what are some of the gaps, and really start to think through what are some pie-in-the-sky solutions for some of these problems. And some of the sticky notes in here reflect some of those gaps, some of those opportunities, and early thinking on solutions that many of them have actually evolved to become actual projects, like the mobile pantry, for example, came out of one of these sessions. So the group has been quite active since its inception, started in those informal kind of information gathering discussions, and then a lot of research went into it, and it evolved into launching the first the community assessment report in early 2023. That was really an opportunity to capture a snapshot of the food insecurity landscape in Mower County. So it incorporates a lot of data points and research, and there's a lot of stakeholders with both service agents, organizations in the county, but also with recipients, with students, with community leaders, and with local government, to better understand where the county is and where the opportunities are, and also takes a deep dive into a few segments within the population that are most at risk, like children, seniors, and veterans, and others, that and what that segment looks like. So what the coalition is doing is already having an impact. We're seeing more than 100 students are accessing the free breakfast, as well as the weekend backpacks. As we know, a core program of United Way of Mower County is having a big impact, and they're also extending their reach as well, which is a big issue within the county. And then it's important to keep in mind as well, if we go to the next slide, please, that as Garrett mentioned it as well, we never know really who is going to be on the verge and on the cusp of needing these services. The stat here, 50% of Americans are living with less than $500 in savings. And there was a Wall Street Journal earlier this week talking about this small changes, inflation, healthcare costs, a car repair that you didn't expect can actually push somebody to be able to need these types of services. And in Mower County, about 31% fall within the 200 poverty level, kind of the criteria where SNAP is set, but they could the amount that could be needing these services tomorrow is also a population that is important to keep in mind, because they're living in precarious situation and they may not be needing it today, but they might tomorrow. And then moving into the priority areas. So these 5 buckets here are kind of like the pillars on which the coalition is setting its own priority areas and its goals and kind of guiding the action. So access and alignment really get into increasing the access to food for every resident of Mower County and really being efficient on the distribution and the collaboration. Education and empowerment, same as what we're doing today with the group here, kind of making sure that we're empowering individuals and families and service agents with the knowledge to be able to serve everyone. Inclusivity and dignity, to make sure that we're providing, we're having a dignified approach and we're removing the stigma associated with accessing food security efforts. Choice and autonomy, and this is something that also came up in the in-person event we had today, making sure that we have greater choice and autonomy, including cultural competent foods and making sure that we're serving the different populations that we have in the county. And then finally, vibrant community, and the intersection between well-being and nurturing a community that also prides itself on health outcomes and nurturing the well-being of its residents. I'm going to turn it over to Garrett for a little bit more on this.
Great. So right on the screen now, we have examples of some of the organizations that have been involved to date in the efforts, but it doesn't end there. There's room for more on this page. So if you're not represented here, there's still time and we need you. And just to reiterate too, I think the coalition's approach is that, we're here to convene and empower all the existing work and programs that are happening on the front lines. And, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we know there are programs out there that are working. But at the same time, I think pretty much everyone would here would agree, like there's more we could do. Everyone could use more support, could use new collaborations and resources. So let's try to connect all of those dots. And the current coalition work out of the community sessions led to the development of 4 action teams, which are up and running and open to more help. But the first one is the SNAP action team, which is organized today. And the second is the volunteer mobilization team. They're working on ways to develop volunteers, but also develop things for volunteers to do that fit a lot of different interests. And there's a mobile food pantry team, which is working closely with the Salvation Army and others, and has already deployed 2 mobile food pantry locations and seeing great interest and learning a lot. And the third one is coming shortly. And there's also a group working on a community hub. There's funds for a new building in town, and how could all of this help empower the efforts that are going on. And just to show quickly, there's a timeline. All this has happened in the last 2 years, and mostly in the last 18 months. The community assessment report was released 13 months ago, 14. And there's a lot of great setup work has gone on, but it's also action. So, but we need everyone's input and help and ideas. And some great things have already happened in addition to the mobile pantry and the works at the schools. The Mayo Clinic recognized the great work that's happening and donated $50,000 to these efforts and helping convene more work. And we have the first hometown food security app for support and research is about to launch. Keep an eye out on that for that. And as a call to action, a lot of ways you can help if you aren't already, but in addition to probably most of your day jobs of helping all day, but please make sure you're signed up for the Hometown Food Security Project emails and social media accounts. Take a look at the Hunger and Food Insecurity Community Assessment Report. If you don't have a copy, stop by the office here on Main Street and pick one up. Share solutions, share ideas, and we can use advocacy and help, promoting these issues. And I will say too that, we have an interesting perspective because we're also from out of town. We've been working here for 10 years in different ways. And it's really inspiring to see the work that's happening, to see a community put a goal like this out there. And, it's really unique and in some ways unprecedented. And it's being watched by a lot of people, both the great success already, but the huge potential that is like being unlocked to figure out solutions to really difficult problems. And people as far away as Washington, D.C. are paying attention to what you guys are all doing. And it's really impressive. And I think it's just getting going. So with everyone's help, it's going to go even further. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Garrett. And just to let everyone know, if you do not have a copy of the SNAP application, we did put a link to that in the chat. So if you want to follow along or look through that and gather any, any thoughts or questions, and you can either type them into the chat or wait for the Q&A portion at the end of Jenny's presentation.
All right. I just want to start by thanking you all for coming. I know you're all kind of doing a little bit of this work already, but we definitely appreciate it. I do want to just reiterate that even though you're here, you're learning about SNAP, nobody's expecting you to be an expert. I was billed as an expert, but I don't think of myself that way. The policies are constantly changing. We're constantly looking things up. So nobody's really expecting you guys to know all of the answers. We just want to equip you with enough information to at least help people get started with this process as you're assisting them and seeing, my clients might benefit from this. So just a little background about SNAP. It stands for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. The key word in there is supplement. It's not really intended to cover all of the household that a food needs in a month, but it definitely helps. It's oftentimes referred to as food stamps, and it's issued on a discrete EBT card. It can be used at some gas stations. It can be used at the Austin Farmers Market that's held downtown. When used at the Austin Farmers Market here, they're actually issued a little extra. Stop by there or refer your clients down there to use their SNAP, and they can find that out. They can actually turn it into $30 to use at the $10 into $30 to use at the farmers market. Benefits cannot be used to buy non-food items, which I know is a misconception that's had about SNAP a lot, but it really only can be used for food. And it's actually, you can't use it for hot, ready-to-eat food either. It's a federal program, but the state of Minnesota administers it themselves on a county level. And each state SNAP program is a little bit different. They'll have different rules and policies that they will follow. So what somebody has to do in Iowa to get SNAP might be different than what they do here in Minnesota. So when we talk about who benefits from SNAP, it goes a long ways. There's the obvious low-income families and individuals that are receiving SNAP. They benefit for it. Helps them stretch their food budgets, make better choices. And it really provides them the ultimate choices. They get to take it to the grocery store and buy what they want. But not only that, the food shelves and the pantries, it benefits them as well. Right now, there's a huge demand for the food pantries, but the more people that are on SNAP, the less they'll have to use those food shelves. And one often overlooked thing is about how well SNAP affects the communities and the local economy. One thing I was very interested to learn is about the SNAP economic multiplier, where every dollar spent on SNAP actually benefits our community community and economy by $1.79. So if you look at our numbers for 2023, it was about $7,600,000 issued, $7,600,000 issued in SNAP, but that actually benefited our local economy by over $13 million. Something I found really interesting to learn. So now we'll talk about the application process a little bit. And like Marin said, they entered a link to the application in there if you want to take a look at it. But there's a couple different ways you can apply. You can complete the SNAP application online at Min Benefits, or you can do a paper application. One thing to note is the Min Benefits website was updated a couple of years ago, so it's actually user-friendly from a cell phone. The previous Apply MN site was not very user-friendly. It didn't work well on cell phones, so that's one thing that got updated during COVID. Again, the link for the application is in the chat if you wanted to look at it at all. But just some important things to remember. If you are completing the paper application, there's actually a person that processes that. So it's okay to write outside of the margins. It's okay to write comments on there if you're not sure what to answer, or what the client should be answering. They can certainly write us as much information as they want. Some important tips to remember: make sure all household members are listed on there, even if they're not applying for SNAP. Be sure to include the working phone number. The interview portion of the application process is probably about the most important part. And then also all of the questions need to be answered. I know some of them seem kind of silly when you're talking about you're helping let's say a 75-year-old person fill it out. Well, why do I have to talk about whether they're in school or not? Well, we just need them all answered. And just answer to the best of your ability. Like I said before, there is an interview process that is pretty important. So all of the questions are discussed during that process. And just to reiterate the importance of that interview, most of them are done over the phone. So just a working phone number is very important. So once the application is submitted to our agency, we actually have a 30-day processing timeline, but we're pretty fortunate in Mower County to have a great team, and we can try to make contact usually within the first couple of days with the client. Whether that happens or not, depends on the answering of the phone. But if the client cannot get in contact with them, then an appointment letter will be sent out. Once the interview is completed, the client will be notified what other verifications are missing, if there's more information we need, and then they have a certain amount of time to turn that all back in. And like I said, there's a 30-day processing timeline standards, but we do have a little discretion to extend that if we're working on it, but we just can't get everything. So some of the eligibility requirements, and we'll kind of go into some of these in a little bit more detail here, but we're just wanting to verify identity, income, household size and composition, resident, citizenship and immigration status, student status, and that's talking about college students, time-limited recipient status, and then just one thing to note for Minnesota is that there is no asset test.
Can you explain what an asset test is?
Yeah, so for SNAP, we don't look at assets. So we might ask you about vehicles that you own or bank accounts that you have, but that's not going to count towards your SNAP budget or whether or not you're eligible. So you might have 3 cars and $4,000 in your bank account, and that's not going to matter for your SNAP status. But we will ask. It matters for other programs that we offer. So whenever we're privy to that information, we at least ask a little bit more so we're aware. You can see here the current income requirements for SNAP, and these are usually updated every October, but for most of our clients, we're looking at the 200% of the FPG, the federal poverty guidelines before taxes, and we look at gross income. And when we talk about income, we want to know wages, self-employment, we want to know unearned income, such as Social Security or child support. And then I know in Mower County residency and household composition can get a little bit tricky. We do see a lot of multi-generational families sharing a household. And I'll just kind of reiterate that it's important to list everybody in that household on the application. Like I said before, there's an interview where we talk about it, and then we can kind of determine, you know, your elderly parents that are living with you, we probably don't need to count them in your SNAP budget, but we at least want to know about that. Because for other programs that matters, and we want to make sure that we're calculating everything correctly. But just a few examples of assistant units, it's generally people who eat together. So, you know, the kind of the obvious is married spouses that are living together, or unmarried partners that have a child in common. And then your children up until the age of 22 have to be counted into your household. And then I just kind of listed a few of our most common immigration statuses here and whether they're eligible or not. I know citizenship and immigration can get very, very complex. Right now, I know in Mower County, we're seeing a lot of new statuses that we're having to research and look at policy to figure out what their status means and what their eligibility is. So, you know, like I said, these are just the most common ones that we see quite a bit. And then it's also important to remember that while somebody in a household might have an immigration status that does not qualify them for SNAP, somebody else in the household might. I'll use lawful permanent residents, for example. The adults have to be here for 5 years before they're eligible, but the children are usually eligible right away. Or an undocumented mother with a US born citizen. So again, just make sure everybody on that or in that household is listed on the application. And we don't care in our office. We don't care if they're undocumented. We're not sharing that information with anybody. I know there's clients that are afraid to report that information because they realize they're here illegally, but like I said, we don't care. If they're working with an alias, we're going to ask for that alias. We're going to ask for that income, but that's just so we are getting everything correct on their case.
And you don't share that, reiterate.
Yeah, we don't share, even if we get the alias and that they're working under, we're not giving that information to anybody, so they don't need to be concerned about that. I know that's a big fear among some clients. Student eligibility status, college students, they have to meet certain criteria to be eligible for food support. The main ones that we see is if they're participating in work study. During COVID, there was a couple of waivers that gave them more options to be eligible, but those have ended. So we just want to see that they're participating in work study or a few of these other things that I have listed here. Time limited SNAP recipient. That gets kind of tricky. I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but there's a certain group of people that if they're not meeting one of these exemptions that we have listed here, they're only eligible to receive food support for 3 months within a 3-year time period. Currently, Minnesota has found what we call banked months in the budget where we're able to give them, it's almost kind of like an extension. They get a few extra months, even though they've used their 3 already. Otherwise, you know, these are some of the exemptions listed. They're going to school, or they're taking care of a child, collecting unemployment or homelessness. And then we can talk about the potential SNAP deductions a little bit, such as shelter costs, whether that's rent or mortgage, your utility expenses, daycare expenses. And basically what this means is after we calculate your gross income, we can take this off, and then we determine once we determine your net income is how we determine what your benefit level will be. verification requirements. Some things are mandatory, such as income and unemployment. For college students, I'll touch on that because I know there's a few of you from Riverland, but we want to know what they're receiving for financial aid, even though it doesn't count in their budget. We need work study pay stubs, even though that doesn't count in their budget. We still need all of that information. And then we need social security numbers. A lot of times they can provide that to us. We will ask, we might make it mandatory if we're questioning something that they're telling us, then we might ask for that verification. But other non-mandatory verifications such as shelter costs, they don't have to give us that information, but then we can't give them the deduction for it. So common myths and misconceptions about SNAP. And this is where you guys can kind of participate a little bit if you want. You can either throw it in the chat or raise your hand, but do you think this is a myth or fact that SNAP is a welfare program?
Who will be first?
Feel free to
Don't
unmute.
everybody talk at once.
Feel free to unmute and let us.
Myth, Heidi, thank you.
Yep, good job. It's actually a nutrition program that's part of the USDA and included in the Farm Bill. And how about if I get SNAP, I won't be able to use the food shelf or qualify for other programs such as WIC or the CSFP, which is a commodity senior food box.
A myth.
Yeah, good job. Claiming SNAP benefits does not disqualify anyone from receiving food from other sources or programs. And then how about only unemployed people can get SNAP?
Myth.
Myth.
I'm thinking these are too easy. Many people who work can get SNAP benefits. Eligibility is based only on household size and monthly income. And how about I can't get SNAP because I own a car?
Myth.
You guys are too smart. No assets are considered when determining SNAP eligibility. And how about everyone will know that I'm on food stamps?
Myth.
That's right. It's issued on an EBT, electronic benefit transfer card, so it looks just like any other debit card that you're using when you go to the grocery store. It's even smart enough to know, we talked a little bit about how you can't use it to buy prepared food or paper products. It's smart enough to know when you're at the checkout, you give them your EBT card first, it will ring everything up. Anything that's not eligible for EBT, you'll just have a balance left to pay for that. And just a little quick data about Mower County, just kind of to show the active persons on SNAP and the adults, the average benefit, and then the total benefit for that year. This is kind of interesting. You'll see there was a couple years where it was pretty high, and that was when we were following a lot of COVID rules. There was eSNAP, which was a little bit of an extra incentive to keep yourself open on it. There was some different renewal requirements where people weren't having to renew very often. We had a waiver when I talk about the time limited recipients where they could all stay open without any time limits. There was waivers for the students where they could be open a lot easier than the requirements they have to meet now. And then Michaela will talk a little bit about existing resources.
So one of the existing resources that you can utilize, I know I did a training recently with Riverland, so you guys are probably aware of this. But one of the existing resources, we have multiple people in Mower County that are trained to help families do this, or families can also self-screen, but it's an online screening tool. It's called Bridge to Benefits. It was created by the Child's Defense Fund of Minnesota. The purpose of it is to increase awareness and participation in public work support programs and federal programs, as well as the tax credits. If you've been paying attention to tax credits in the last couple of years, honestly, probably since COVID, they're really pushing for families to be aware of them and be aware what you can get back if you're working. And if you're not working also, as well as if you have children. The point of Bridge to Benefits is to help low income workers / families meet basic needs. We know that basic needs If they're met, that it is successful, you have more likeliness of success in other outcomes such as mental health, physical health, education, a whole compile of things. Thousands of eligible families in Minnesota are unaware of the help they can receive, don't think they could receive the help, or not sure where to find the help, which is kind of where Bridge to Benefits came out of. It's a one-stop shop to kind of put in your basic information. It doesn't ask for name, immigration status, anything like that. It just asks if you know your rough income, if you have child support, roughly what that would be a month. Obviously, once you did the screening tool and it popped up what you may be eligible for. So for example, it might say you're eligible for SNAP, you're eligible for WIC, you're eligible for cash assistance. Once you would see that, then the family would go on and do the application process, and then that would be determined within the county or within the federal program based on their guidelines if they truly were eligible for it, based on actual pay stubs, eligibility letters, that type of stuff. The programs that the families are screened for in Bridge to Benefits, some were mentioned before, but medical assistance, Minnesota Care, advanced premium tax credits, the child care assistance, early learning scholarships, energy assistance, SNAP, school meal program, WIC, earned income tax credit, work and family tax credit. And then there is COVID-19 resources. Those are not on there anymore now that COVID has kind of come to a stop, but they were before on there. Another resource that we've just recently learned about and we're sharing today just because they have a thing called a SNAP call-in line. So Second Harvest Heartland is a leading hunger relief organization. They are based out of the cities. You might also see their name or logo in participation with like the Channel One Food or Rachel's Hope. They are in partnership with more than 1,000 food shelves and hunger relief programs in Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. Again, the big part of why we're sharing this is because they do have a SNAP call-in line. So they help with SNAP application assistance or any SNAP questions you might have regardless of what county you live in. They do have multiple languages and use a language line for the languages they don't have in-house. So just another really great resource, especially pertaining to food shelves or SNAP in general. I know for us, we have the hometown food security guide you can look at for the area food shelves as well as different areas to get food. But another thing, especially for those maybe working with college students that might go home and need food support when they're at home and then come back. But yes, they help families enroll in food assistance and provide prepared meals for people who need more than groceries. Second Harvest Heartland is a leader, conveyor, and voice in hunger-related policy discussions.
And these links are, I think, all on the Hometown Food Security website
Yeah.
in the SNAP Action Center.
Yes, they are all under there. So everything we go over today will be under there. And then we do have all your emails, if you want to go to the next slide. So the other resource is the summer EBT. I'm sure many of you have heard about it, but it's $120 per eligible child, school age child. Families must complete the application for educational benefits form previously known as the free and reduced price meals, and then recipients of SNAP or MFIB don't have to apply but can apply using their case number. So some of the questions we've been getting with this is, well, how do families apply? If you have a family ask, we advise that you tell them to connect with their local school or whatever school district they go to. The school district should be able to tell them if they have filled out a free and reduced lunch meal, because typically if they have, it's on file at the school. It also might be on file if they have a parent portal for the school. They can go into their parent portal and look in their documents and kind of see if it's something they filled out. If not, I know like Austin, if they have the parent portal, they can print it off from the parent portal, the actual sheet to fill out and return it to school or upload it back to the portal. If you're a smaller school district, it's probably just best to fill it out and have the child turn it back in. So those are some questions we've got. We can, like in a low key sense, tell you that there is not a specific deadline for the summer EBT. So for example, let's say it's a family that it's August and they're like, I just heard about this, like, can I still apply for it? They can apply for it. They, from our understanding, they'll kind of be doing catch up in September, October timeframe to get those families that were missed maybe or didn't apply till later summer. It was said that like middle of July timeframe, the cards will be sent out. They'll probably receive a letter, text message, phone call, whatever is decided at the higher up level if they are eligible for it. And that would be if they already have something on file saying like they have that free and reduced meal plan on file. And then, yeah, if you want to go to the next slide. So earlier I mentioned kind of emails. All of you that are virtual, we do have your email. So we will be sending you the SNAP Mower County specific FAQ sheet. This will go over it. You can hand it out to families. You can utilize it when you're working with students or families, but basically it's kind of the nitty gritty cheat sheet of like, what do I do? Who do I call? Like, what is the process? So we will make sure we get that emailed to you tomorrow or later this week. And then we are going to put a link in the chat. This is for a survey about this presentation. If you fill it out, we will get that information and then we will be sending you, you get some fun little swag items that we will be sending you for filling out the survey as kind of like a thank you, as well as spending your evening, an hour with us. And then we do have some questions that came through registration. So I'll just ask Jenny those. And then if any of you guys have any more questions on anything that was presented, you at that time can go ahead. But Jenny, we did have 3 questions come through registration. So the first one is, how is a household determined? Many clients we serve live in a intergenerational household, but finances are separate.
Yep, and I kind of touched on this a little bit, but I will just stress again the importance of putting everybody on the application, even if you don't want to apply for them. It's important that we know who's sharing households, just so that way we're not giving them all the same deductions, or if we were, if they're applying for other programs, we want to know everybody in the house because their information might matter. But during the interview with the eligibility worker, they can kind of discuss that as well, about who counts and who doesn't.
Perfect. Another question that came through registration was, who can be considered as an authorized representative when helping complete the application, and what is the process of being an authorized representative?
That's really, there's not a whole lot of guidelines of who it can be. It really can be anybody. In the application, there is a section that asks to fill out that information about the authorized representative part. One thing to keep in mind as service agencies helping people complete applications is that if we're not getting the correct information on the application and we find, there is I'll just call it an intentional program violation and we have to do an overpayment to get money back for that, the AREP can be held responsible for that as well. So keep that in mind when you're volunteering to be that person.
Another question that came through registration was, I'm mainly looking for knowledge when our participants ask me about SNAP. What can be a general thing to say or share about SNAP to those that are interested?
Oh, that's a good one. I think really just kind of what we talked about on the PowerPoint. I think the FAQ sheet is going to help a lot. It will give you the contact information for our county offices. It'll give you the website to apply online. It'll tell you some of the main things that we're looking for, along with, like I said, ways to contact us and what some of those requirements are.
Perfect. And then the last question that came through registration, which I know you kind of touched based on, but it says undocumented families in need. What is good to know?
Yep. Again, it gets a little tricky. We'll talk about undocumented. It usually means they're probably here illegally. We want to know their information. We want to know whether they're working and what their alias is. We're not going to share that information with anybody. They don't need to be worried about that. And also, kind of like I mentioned before, they might have US born children that might be eligible for these programs. So even though mom who's undocumented is not going to be, her children might be. And I think that about covers it. I mean, there are some programs like Clues is not looking at immigration status. The Salvation Army, I don't think they ask those questions. WIC, the main requirement for WIC is income, and then just children under 5 or pregnant women. So there are programs out there that aren't asking those questions.
Perfect. And for you guys virtually, Garrett did share, I believe, the PowerPoint that also has the SNAP part of the presentation in there, as well as those resources to bridge the benefit and second hand harvest. Is there any other questions virtually that you may have for Jenny that haven't been answered, or about the EBT program, or anything that you guys can think of? And you can type it in chat or just share, yeah, if there's anything going on with your organizations that you want to share.
I have one thing really quick.
Perfect.
Susan from U of M Extension. Some of our educators are working on a 2-week or a 14-day meal kit to go along with the summer EBT program. So summer meals for kids and their families, designed for parents, caregivers, and kids to do meals through a 14-day period. They'll focus on breakfast and lunch, those meals that they would have had in school. Easy meals for kids to prepare, and they'll of course have veggies and fruits and be healthy but fun. And so that is almost ready to share out, and I can share that when it's available. It's just kind of a good supplemental resource to that program. That'll be happening this summer. We hope to also have it available in Spanish and possibly other languages.
Great. It's nice to know. Is there any other questions virtually or anything else anyone would like to share?
I would just love to ask Jenny to reiterate, like, how many languages, what languages you can handle at the SNAP office and how that works.
Yep, pretty much any. We use the language line. A lot of you probably know we have 3 community health workers in-house that speak Spanish, Swahili, and Nuer, and then I can never remember Rain's language. Karenni, yeah.
Yes.
So they're there to help with forms. They really just do the reading and writing part of it. They prefer to have appointments made to do that, but they are available, and they'll help with any language. Again, if somebody comes in that speaks a language that they don't, they'll just utilize the language line and get that taken care of.
Awesome. Is there any other questions before we wrap up? If not, thank you guys for spending the last hour with us. And I say a big thank you from our SNAP advocacy team. And also, like I said, again, there is that link for the survey. Please fill it out, because that will help us with future events like this that are similar. And also just our SNAP advocacy group goals and where to follow, and also bringing more people in if they're interested in joining our cause to help end the stigma on SNAP and the myths on SNAP, but also raise the awareness on SNAP and get those who truly need it on it.
Get a little swag.
And yes, you will get a little swag for filling out the survey. So I'll be in contact with you or Jessica to get some addresses of where you work, so we can get that. Most of you are likely in this area, so we'll probably just hand deliver them, because who doesn't like a hand delivery? But
It's something pretty cool. I can vouch for that.
so yes, otherwise, thank you again for joining us and spending an hour of your time with us. I know sometimes that's hard, especially in the evenings. And if there's nothing else, we will go ahead and say goodbye.
Enjoy the beautiful day.
Yes, try to enjoy the nice weather.
I'm waiting.
Thank you. Yeah, we're waiting, but you
Thanks,
can't.
everybody.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Do I stop recording or just?
Just end and then they'll,
It will stop.